Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Darkest Timeline. Something that I've completely forgotten to mention in this episode is that I should have put a trigger warning at the start of what I was talking about, and I didn't, and then just completely breezed past it. So please take this as said trigger warning. If you are potentially triggered by certain subjects, you might want to skip at least the first section of this podcast. As I've said previously, these podcasts are in no way, shape or form meant to offend anybody or harm or anything like that. It's just what's going on at the point in time that it's recorded. Speaking of what's going on in this episode, there is, like I said, something that's potentially a trigger for people. Talking about October and how it's one of the best times of the year, but also, does it suck? And a quiet Sunday afternoon. TV and games, no movies. One of those, I was watching a movie, but I haven't finished it, so yeah. Before we start, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Obviously, the big one is share the podcast around. The more people that see it or hear it or any of those things, yeah, the better it is all around. So, please do think about sharing it. Right, that's it. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the Darkest Timeline. Hello. How you doing? You well? I snuck up on myself. I clicked the record button and went, well, I'm not ready. That's how you do it. You surprise yourself with it. That way it's all spontaneous. Forgot words there for a second. Forgot the word spontaneous. I think I was going with spontaneity. And I don't think that's a word. How is everybody? I feel like I've been through the ringer today. Today was one of those days where I started out badly, went downhill fast, was general ass all day, and then out of nowhere, like the finest RKO in history, it was 10-4. And I was like, oh, that almost makes everything better. And then it was kind of like, it was like somebody had righted the boat at that point in time. Yeah. Feeling funky. Feeling funky and chunky. So, let's do the first few bits of business. One, I need to move, as I do every single time. You'd think I'd learn, but I think it's part of the process. Settling in to deliver. I was going to say great podcast content, but let's not lie to each other. Next, I need the list. I am aware the list is... I don't know. No, that's my workout, so that's not going to do us anything. So last we met, last we spoke. Was I in a fast? Had I started a fast? Was I going to fast? I don't know. I did a fast. It was 8 days in the end. Mostly because of the fact that I thought my weight loss had stopped, like almost completely. And as it's one of those things, I'm sure you can understand something like this. It's very much in the camp of I don't want to be doing this if the weight's not coming off. Now, there was a hidden part of that, which I knew and chose to ignore. The hidden part was, last time I'd done the fast, when the weight loss stopped, I carried on going. And there was a reason for that. The reason was that I wanted my body to identify that new weight as a baseline, as a new starting weight. Fully knowing that, I still chose to break the fast at 8 days. 8 days is a long time when you're not eating. So, what was the outcome? Well, in total, I lost 11 pounds in 8 days. I know what you're thinking. Well, why didn't you go for the full 14? 14 would have been probably another couple of days. You're looking 10 days at that point, you know. And weirdly, and this will sound weird, 14 wasn't the goal. The goal was to get into another stone, to break through the barrier of another stone. And that was what I achieved. So, with that being achieved, it was basically a case of £11 is what we've got. £11 is enough to do that. And there we go. Going into a new stone was a huge thing for me personally. At that point in time, I sat halfway between two milestones for me. I think I spoke last week about the natural weight loss, and I spoke about like a forced weight loss, what I consider to be a not natural loss of weight. So it was achievements across the board. It was big wins. Everybody's happy. Everybody's living life and loving everything. Problem being is in some ways it's too easy. Now I know what you're thinking. How can not eating for 8 days be too easy? Because there are times when I personally wonder if this is actually the answer for me. Not obviously from a permanent basis, and not obviously for super long term. But it makes my life easier. Yes, it's got its downsides. Yes, there are times that are difficult. Yes, there are struggles and all those sorts of things. But I truly believe the problems start for me at the first point in time that I eat something in the day. It's like the floodgates open, and that's it. It's just go time. Now, I've spoken recently about having this really small eating window. I got super hit with it today. I had like a couple of tiny, like these little pots of grapes, 2 of them. And I ate those, and I was like, I'm not full by any means. So I had some like nuts and fruit. I was like, I'll have a few of these. Ate some of those, and then I was full. And I mean like, oh my God, I think I'm going to be sick kind of full. So it hit me hard today. Obviously the question would have been there, or the question is at that point, if I hadn't have eaten the grapes and the nuts and the fruit, what's the other side look like? So In 8 days, I was hungry a handful of times, and the majority of those times passed fairly quickly and fairly uneventfully. Is that it? Obviously, you can't argue with like massive results. I've lost the best part of 2 stone in 2 months. Is that it? So we're kind of in that camp of, where's the downside? I can still run. It's difficult on certain days. I can still work out. That is difficult. I can still climb. I'm not going to lie, I don't think I've seen any real problems or issues as far as climbing is concerned. I think there was a couple of occasions where I'd gone up a wall and got a little bit sort of dizzy-ish, a bit lightheaded maybe. So, you know, you have that, I don't know if I necessarily feel super safe kind of situation going on. But I am struggling to see the negatives. And there's the problem. Now, I start getting into my head about, maybe you're making yourself unwell. Maybe you're doing damage to your body. I had severe case of like a severe bout of IBS almost for the entire time I was fasting. So on one hand, it made things easy. Oh, I'm not going to eat anything because I'm in pain. On the other hand, there was that question of, have I done this to myself? Is this a result of what I'm doing? Etc., etc. But believe me, the IBS, there's no rhyme or reason to the IBS. It'll hit you whenever it wants, and it'll last a day or 3 months. And there's very little you can do to change any part of that. But obviously you can't see inside yourself. You know, at one point I was like, is this actually IBS or is this my kidneys shutting down? Obviously you've got these concerns, these worries, these issues. You've got that whole, is my body eating itself? Because, you know, how much muscle am I losing? I'm going in the gym and I'm working out, but is it all for nothing? And the answer is probably yes to all of these questions. But you can't physically see it. What you can see is every day or so when you step on the scales, you've lost a couple of pounds and you go, I mean, you know, that's a benefit. I've had a couple of like sort of first world weight loss problems. One, I don't know if you can hear it. There are points in time where my watch is super loose. I've got to the point where I'm like, I might have to take a link out. And I put some jeans on the other day and then was walking the dog and just every few steps having to pull them up and pull them up and pull them up. And I'm like, I'm sure I've not experienced this problem with these jeans before. So, you know, real first world weight loss problems there. So that was kind of that basically. It was like a big win, all these ticks of these boxes, etc. Now, I said that on the previous fast, what I'd done was I tried to set that new baseline for weight. One of the other things I'd done was to make sure above absolutely everything that when I came out of the fast, it wasn't, well, yeah, business as usual, back to the way things were. Eat like a savage. So it was like small meals, mostly veg, soup here or there, noodle type meals here and there, and then just steadily sort of ramp that up. This time, I didn't do any of that. So here was my thinking. Here was my thought process. I was like, oh man, I really, while I've not been eating, I've really missed X. While I've not been eating, I've really missed this. Or while I've not been eating, I've baked something. Or, these sorts of things going through my head. Come off the fast, I'm like, right, okay, I need to make sure that I'm eating properly and right and all of those things. But first, just going to eat my way through that list of foods that I said that I was missing while I was fasting. So, as no surprise to anyone, stepped on the scales this morning. Yeah, put on 6 pounds. So if anyone's keeping count, at this point in time, I've only lost 5 pounds after not eating for 8 days. Yes, I feel like a fucking tit. I can't, at this point in time, I just can't get away from the answer is not eating. If you're a doctor and you like to write in, feel free. I'm open to, a medical professional sort of, breakdown. Yeah. It is currently at this point in time, it won't be when this is released, but at this point in time, it is spooky season. Spoilers, it might be highlighted in the games that I've been playing recently, but we'll get to that later. It is, in fact, spooky season. It is October. October should be all spooky all the time. Over recent years, October has been a little bit different for me. And I have a feeling that I spoke about this maybe last year. October is a particularly difficult time for me. I've started to think that maybe my body remembers previous pain or trauma that I went through in previous Octobers. I've started to wonder if my subconscious is driving certain aspects. My anger is elevated in the month of October. Not good for anybody. And it's weird because it's something that I work on a lot. If anybody's wondering, the road rage is going very well. Even today, when today fucking sucked. I was saying to Leanne I could talk at length. I could do an entire podcast on the 5 minutes of me dropping my son off at nursery this morning. But I won't. Don't worry, I won't. So I'm kind of riding the last week or so of October out. Trying to just, hang on for dear life. I was having a conversation with somebody today. I was like, because they were like, I'll see you tomorrow. I was like, no. You won't see me tomorrow. I was like, also, next week, I'm only working a couple of days next week. I've got the rest of the week off. And they were like, all right, nice, yeah. I was like, yeah, absolutely. I was like, it's nice right up until I actually get to the point that I'm off. Because that's the point I remember that I'm going from working full-time to looking after 4 children and reminding myself that that job is a hell of a lot harder. It's all right, though, because it's only going to be super freaking stressful all week. But hey, that's the thing we live for, apparently. High stress situations. So yeah, the whole October thing. I'm like, do I just write the month of October off? I like October. You get like random days where it's really warm when you think it should be cold and stuff like that. I like Halloween. I like spooky season. Like I say, I'll mention that in the games. So yesterday was the York Marathon. And what's interesting with the York Marathon is it's the knowledge that if you live in York, you're not going anywhere. And that's that. So you best prepare to be stuck in the house for an entire day. And that's what we did. We prepared to be stuck in the house for the whole day. Leon was like, what are you going to do about baking and things like that? I was like, yeah, I mean, obviously we're stuck in, so gonna have to bake something. I don't know. So there's things like that. The younger two children got cabin fever round about 10 o'clock in the morning, which was fantastic. There was a lot of, why don't you draw something? Why don't you draw something? I felt like saying, why don't you just tell them that we're going out in 2 minutes? Then they'll find something to do. Because, they've always got something to do when we're supposed to be going out somewhere. But it was a very strange day in the sense that every time I looked at the clock, I felt it should be later. So, as the day wore on, something dawned on me. An opportunity came knocking, and I'm like, Every time I look at the clock, I think it should be, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and it's 10 o'clock. What if I can capitalize on this time dilation and gain some free time? So, I was like, I need to test this theory. Here's what I'm going to do. I've got a list of, I think it was like 4 things to bake. Leanne was like, well, you're going to have a problem. You're going to be stuck straight away because I didn't know what we needed. So I've only bought the basics. Eggs, milk, butter, sort of thing. I haven't bought any flour or any of that sort of stuff because I know we had some, but I didn't know if we had all that we needed. I was like, oh, okay. So she's like, well, you're going to have to pick your battles. I'm like, okay, well, I know I can make flapjack because I know we've got the ingredients. So that's number 1. All right, number 2, scones, because they use a different type of ingredient. They're essentially, for want of a better way of putting it, it's like sweet bread, really, isn't it? So they use different type of ingredients. It's almost a savoury ingredient. You add, for the recipe I've got, you've got like 3 tablespoons of sugar, and that's it. So I'll probably do scones. I was going to do some cookies, but turned out that because of what Leanne had made previously, we didn't have anything to go in them. So I was like, oh, okay, I can't do that. So I was like, right, well, she'd made some stuff. We still had some stuff. And I was like, I know what I can do to make myself useful. I'll do this baking, but I've also got some savoury stuff I wanted to do. By the way, this is a complete aside. I really wanted a mandolin. Every single person in my house was like, do not buy a mandolin you'll chop your freaking hand off. I have used my mandolin 3 times now. Yesterday was one of them. 2 of the 3 times I've injured myself whilst using it. I mean, I've taken the tip of my right index finger off yesterday. And last time I took the corner of my thumb off. So it's got a pretty good hit rate at this point in time. Like 66% of the time I use it, I injure myself. But yes, I had some savoury stuff to do. So, I was like, here we go. I can make flapjack right here and now. It's fairly easy. It's do stuff in a pan, do stuff in a bowl, put the 2 together, stick it in the oven. Bosh. I got that done. Check the time. I'm like, okay. I think at this point in time, it was still the morning. I'm like, interesting. So, move on. Right, next. Scones. Again, very much one of those situations. You've got a wet and a dry. Do the 2 separately, combine them together. I add some stuff. I've got a recipe, and the recipe's like a basic recipe, and then I add stuff. So I was like, right, I'm going to put this in. I'm also going to put this in, and then I'm going to put some of this in to kick it up a notch with a spice weasel. So I did all of that, got it all rolled out, got them in the oven. Okay, that's that done. Get them out of the oven. Now, by this point, the day is completely changed. Because in the middle of the day, you have this sort of weird limbo thing where my son goes and has a nap. Leanne will go off and start doing like jobs. My youngest daughter's like, if it was a Saturday, she'd be trying to get the opportunity to watch TV. But with it being a Sunday, pretty sure she was doing like activity stuff. So that's that. Scones are made. Flapjack's made. I'm like, are you sure there's nothing else you need me to make? And I was like, no, it's fine. I'm like, all right, okay. So what I'm going to go and do is I'm going to go and chop the end of my finger off. And after that, I'm going to bleed all over a load of potatoes. However, some kitchen roll and a plaster later, I managed to slice up a load of potatoes using the mandolin. Some of them, I'm pretty sure by the end, some of them didn't have blood on. I'm working on the principle that's going to really crisp those bad boys up. Stuck them in a bowl, put them in the fridge, job done. Now then, this is the point where everything changed. Because all of the baking jobs are done. All of the cooking jobs are done. That side of the day type deal is done, but the day isn't. So now we've entered into this limbo. And the limbo is, if it was any other situation, you'd just go and, sit or put the PlayStation on or put the VR on or where. But you can't. Got kids, this, that and the other. So then this other situation starts. A situation where Leanne's allowed the little guys to watch something early. I'm like, this is unheard of. What's going on here? And then I checked on the situation and went, sofa sleeper. I was like, yeah, it makes sense, It's one of them, innit? You take opportunities and things where you can. So kids are watching Halloween stuff on TV. Leanne's getting a little 5 minutes. What am I supposed to do at this point in time? So I slide the Steam Deck out of its case, turn it on. Nobody immediately jumps all over me like, what are you doing? Shouldn't you be doing something? Haven't you got a job to be doing? That sort of thing. Okay. It's all quiet. Okay. I'm going to load this game. This is where it gets sketchy. So, all of a sudden, a child appears. Daddy, what are you doing? It's like, I'm just looking at this. What game are you playing? I'm not playing anything at the moment. It's a cutscene, but it's for a playing game. Do you like playing games? Oh, yeah, I like playing games. I'm thinking, you've never played a playing game in your life. I was like, oh, well, I'm just watching the cutscene right now. Oh. Can I have a go? Like, I'm not even playing the game. So, as with a lot of things, this cutscene's going on for a while. Obviously, child loses interest and wanders off. So, I sat and played a little bit of Ace Combat for a while. Did a few levels of that. Then I was like, right, I'm going to put the original Metro game on. Played a little bit of that. So I'm like, okay, Steam Deck needs charging. Now what? So there's a big changing of the guard. You know, it's later in the day. Jobs are required, all this, that, and the other. So I'm like, right, I'm going to go and see what everyone's doing. I end up sat, and then, like I say, Lan goes off to do a load of jobs. And I'm like, oh, can I sit with you guys? So I sit down. Immediately, instantaneous, the dog appears out of nowhere. Dog's like, are we sitting on the sofa? Because you know that's my favourite pastime. Like, right, okay. As long as there's room for everyone, you can come and sit. So, I've said this before. And I don't think anything's going to change my mind. Because all the evidence is there. I truly believe the happiest you can ever be is Sunday afternoon. All the jobs are done. TV on, a little movie or a TV show, whatever. Kids are watching. You're laid on the sofa. You're laid with the dog. He's got his head in your lap. He's asleep. You're laid. Your eyes are just gently closing. You're not sleeping, but you're also probably not necessarily awake. And you reach this state of euphoria where you go, And you truly relax. And you truly let all the stresses and the strains and all of life go for just a moment, just a minute, just a point in time. Some people would say it was the definition of happiness, of joy, of life, the life experience, any of those sorts of things. But you know that moment's going to pass, and then time to get back to it. So dog needs walking, kids need tea, and away we go back to our life and the real world and all of that stuff. But for a moment, just fleeting as it was, of true happiness, just for a moment. So I've been watching some TV. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was my that was large chunks of my week. Like I've been saying previously, I've been trying to sort of what I sort of think is like live editing. Years ago and up to recently, I used to put everything on my list, and then I was like, "Is this boring?" Somebody right now is like, "Boring? You should listen to the last 30 minutes." So yeah, the stuff from the week got less and less and less because I just kept going, I shouldn't talk about that. I don't need to talk about that. That was rubbish. That was boring. So that's the week. I'm still plugging away at Mr. In-Between Series 2. The second series has brought with it a couple of interesting character developments in the sense you expect. So far, I've expected 3 things to happen in this series, and none of them have. And I don't want to spoil anything by giving, like, if you haven't seen it, be like, I might give this a whirl. I don't want to be like, I think this is going to happen, and I thought that was going to happen, and I thought this was going to happen, and it didn't. Because then you're like, okay, well, then you just told me what happened. The main character, Ray, I think that's not really a spoiler. Yeah, he's been through it a little bit recently. Been through the ringer a little bit. And I think that's maybe made for a different side to this character. This character seems to have gone a little bit darker. It's been mentioned, like another character has said, like, I know you've got problems, but fuck me. It's a bit dark, isn't it? There seems to have been more stuff in this series of that kind of, is there a line the main character won't cross for certain things? And so far the answer is no. No, there isn't a line. If they've got a task put in front of them, then that task will be completed one way or another. It's very good. It's a very good series. It's very enjoyable. I saw yesterday maybe that it comes up under the comedy section on Disney Plus, and I was saying to Leanne, I was like, don't get me wrong, it's got funny moments in it, it's got funny bits in, but I don't think you would categorize it as a comedy. So yes, that feels strange. I'm enjoying it. At this point in time, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep plugging away at it, and ultimately, unless anything drastically different happens, I probably will end up. It's only 3 series. I think I'm halfway through the second series. Over the next 1, 2. Over the next 4 days, I imagine I'll get 3, 4 episodes watched. I've tried to the thing about it is I've tried to dedicate it as treadmill time, and it's just one of those. Some days I go on the treadmill and some days I don't. So, having had a little break from it, me and Leanne watched an episode of Atlanta last night. We watched last night. Anyway, we watched Series 2, Episode 4. I said I had to pick my words when I highlighted this, and luckily for me, Leanne agreed. So I kind of felt that was okay. But I was saying the character of Vanessa, who's played by Zazie Beetz. I feel the way that she has been portrayed, the way her character has been designed, feels weird to me. I wonder, like, when that character was pitched to that actress, if I'm right, what is it that draws somebody to a role like that? I was saying to Leanne, I was like, I don't know how to say this other than to sort of say it, but I feel like her character has been designed to highlight the absolute worst parts of women. It's so weird. Something that happened in an episode in that episode I watched last night before, whenever it was. I never understand when characters change without any backstory. In the first series, Donald Glover's character, Ern, wanted to get back with Zazie Beetz' character, Vanessa. I'm trying not to spoil anything here, but that's a key thing in the first series. Series 2 comes around, they're like heading in a particular direction, and then all of a sudden there's just this massive right turn, 180, and that's that. And I'm like, why? Like, a kind of, why have we done this? Both characters seem to be the opposite of what they were. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Oh, excuse me. Something else that like I say, came out in this episode was, like, everything that she was saying, everything that she was doing, everything that she was sort of focusing on and making a big deal out of stuff. I was there and I was like, this to me is the worst side of women. So why is this being portrayed? Also, one of the problems I had watching it was, I was like, I've been in this situation. I've been in a situation where you're invited to go and do something and it's just not your thing. But it is the other person's. The other person's like, oh, this is going to be great, it's going to be fun, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do the other. And you're like, that is not me. That is not me as a person. Everything you've said there, everything you've explained there, everything you've detailed is the actual opposite of anything I would want to do. So you're then portrayed as this grumpy person. You're like, I don't want to do that. Oh, you're being grumpy. I don't want to do that. Oh, you don't want to join in. Oh, you're miserable. It's like, no, this just isn't for me. If we were doing something else, I'd be like, cool, I'll join in. Even if it was not this, but a little bit more in the middle. Like, still not something that I really want to do, but it's more, I'm more inclined to do it because it's not so far the other way. So it was interesting to watch an episode of a TV program that was like that, like a situation that I could sort of sympathise with, because, like I say, something that I've experienced. Yeah, it was. I think it's one of those things that, as a TV series, you're never quite sure what it is you're watching. You know what you're watching is good. You don't know why. You can understand every character in it whilst also not understanding anything they do. And it's just that. As a TV series, it is that. That is the best explanation I can give. I remember saying this about The Bear. I remember saying the phrase, it's good. It's really good. I just can't tell you why. Very much one of those, you have to watch it to understand what it is about it. Anyway, let's talk about some computer games. 2 games this week, both remakes, which I am very mixed on things like this. And these 2 games, very much so. These are remakes of 2 of my favourite games. So, let's get in. On the PlayStation, I've been playing the Dead Space remake. I've been playing it in New Game Plus, and not from the beginning. When I played it originally, I started the New Game Plus. I played through the beginning, I saved it, turned it off and said I'll come back to that later. The problem was, I love Dead Space. I love the original so much. It is hands down one of my favourite games. It came out on the Xbox 360 and I was still playing it up to the point that the remake came out. Because of that, when I played the remake, it changed a series of things that I felt was unnecessary. For me, it just needed a tiny little bit of tarting up, and that would have done for me. But no, they had to change things, and the things they changed I didn't particularly like. Also, I thought, playing it again after so long, and playing New Game Plus, so you don't have to worry about this, that, and the other, it's given me an opportunity to experiment. I've noticed things that apparently I missed the first time around. I asked somebody today who I know has played it. I was like, was this in it originally, or was this something they've added since release? I was like, when you get in these encounters with these monsters, once you've defeated them, you can hear like a heartbeat, like your pulse and stuff's elevated. And it goes on for a little while afterwards, and then obviously it sort of slowly disappears. And I never noticed it the first time I played it, but it's very prominent in the game. So I'm like, has this been added afterwards? Because it seems strange to have not noticed it at all. I will hold my hands up and say I have had to turn the brightness of the game up. Now, going into the brightness settings, I found that I hadn't turned them up massively originally. I think it was at a point in time where I was turning the brightness up on everything and realising that it didn't necessarily need it these days. Playing Dead Space recently over the last few days, it was hurting my eyes. That game is dark, and that's one of the things that they've added to it from the original that I don't like. The original wasn't exactly a rainbow of colour. It was set on a spaceship where somebody basically turned the lights off. And, oh, there's something going on with the power. It's that sort of stuff. To add darkness, which is one of the big gimmicks they've added to the remake, which never worked for me. Let's make a game but make it so dark you can't see it. I will say this. By the time I finished the Dead Space remake, I really enjoyed it. The problem was that enjoyment came from the back third of the game. I remember it as clear as day. Playing it this time, I am categorically enjoying it a hell of a lot more than I remember enjoying it. Now, yes, admittedly, I am experimenting with things that I've never done before in this game, bearing in mind the multitude of times I've played it, getting into situations where it's like, I could use this gun and use up half of the ammo I've got for it to kill this handful of enemies. Or I can look around the room for other weapons. Oh look, there's a big exploding canister. Maybe this will do the job. You know, sort of stuff like that. Trying out the secondary fire on a lot of the weapons. Because a lot of them, although they use a large amount of ammo, they're very good. Whereas in the original, they kind of weren't. Me and Sam were having a conversation today about the helicopter secondary fire on the pulse rifle in the original. Did absolutely nothing, was completely redundant, absolutely pointless. Whereas in the remake, grenade launcher. So, bit of a difference. Also playing New Game Plus, so I've upgraded absolutely everything. I've now got the best suit in the game. So I'm now upgrading stuff that, again, for want of a better way of putting it, stuff I don't use. So, yes. Looking forward to sort of, I feel like I'm halfway through. I think it said sort of chapter 7, chapter 8 maybe. So yeah, kind of enjoying playing that again. And you know, spooky season, so it's good to play a spooky game. Speaking of spooky games, the other game I'm playing is also a remake, and it's also a remake of one of my favourite games, and this is in fact a VR game. I'm playing the Arizona Sunshine remake. Unfortunately, this has not been the best experience. Let me take you back, all the way back to Friday. Oh, gee, it's such a long story. I got some money to get some vouchers. I bought Meta vouchers with the one sole purpose of getting the Arizona Sunshine remake. I got more than enough money put onto the Meta Quest in vouchers weeks in advance. Release day comes round and it gets released at 6 o'clock. And it says that it's $9.99. That's what we were expecting. Unfortunately, it says it's $9.99. And I'm like, that's weird. But it'll sort itself out and it'll just do a quick conversion, take the money. I go through to payment and it says, oh, you can't use your Meta credit because the currency is different. And I'm like, yeah, and that's your problem, not mine. So, sort it out. Tried multiple times, load of Googling, didn't really help me. So I go through to Meta Quest support. Get in touch with a guy who tells me that he's having a great day because it's his birthday. And I'm like, oh, happy birthday. And 25 minutes later, he still hasn't been able to help me. And then he disappeared off the face of the earth. So that was that. I was like, this will absolutely get sorted out. They'll have to do some sort of weird update or whatever. But I had budgeted this evening for playing Arizona Sunshine Remake. And honestly, I'm going to need the Quest credit further down the line anyway, so sod it. Now, in the process, I'd look to see if I could do it through Steam, because I actually own it on Steam as well. Steam were like, give us $8.99 and you can have it. But it was $8.99 in the pounds. I'm like, Steam have managed to sort this out. In the end, paid through the bank and paid £7.87 for it. So, don't get it, but whatever. So let's talk about the game itself. Now, like I say, it's one of my favourite games, and it's had what they're referring to as the Arizona Sunshine 2 treatment, which is where they've brought the graphics up to scratch. They've allowed you to use melee weapons. And what is important here is they've given you all the DLCs from the first one for free. Well, that's good for me because I never played the DLCs because I wasn't prepared to give them more money for a game that I, as we know, have already bought and paid for. I'm like, hey, at the very least, I get to play the DLCs. Winner. I put it on. It's as good as I remember, if not better. That's not quite true, though, because it's super glitchy. When you try and open doors, you pull ammo out of your ammo belt. Okay, well, that's just an adjustment. I just need to make sure that, my ammo belt isn't anywhere near the door. So that's something to remember for the future. It's okay, though, because I'm going to open this door. And not first time, because obviously my arm's going to go through the door. And obviously I'm aware there's a zombie the other side of the door because he's poking through the wall. So there's that. Doors are a massive problem in this game. Either you're putting your hand through them or it's doing like a super glitchy thing where it's like jerking backwards and forwards. You just can't open the door. I have to try again just to be able to open it, and so on and so forth. Now, admittedly, not a super huge amount of glitches or issues in the rest of the elements of the game, apart from the fact that this game's a remake. So they had the original to go from. The original was, at the point in time I played it, had been out a while, was super polished. Great gaming experience. But for me, you've had all this time. When you release a new version of the game, it should be at that standard, surely. But that's me forgetting that nothing gets released in a working fashion these days. You're better off waiting 18 months. I had a conversation with somebody today and their response was, I don't buy new games, I wait till they're fixed. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. So, played Arizona Sunshine Remake, played it and finished it. It was as good as I remember. It was better than I remember. I have played it recently. I think for each of the quest upgrades I've done, from the 2, from the 1, and from the 3, I've played Arizona Sunshine to see what it looks like on each version. And it's just a great game. So getting a tied up version of it, brilliant. So I'm like, hey, let's check out the DLCs, baby. I've played one of the 2 DLCs so far. I've played, I want to say it's something like the Dead Man DLC. Wasn't sure how I was going to feel because it's a different character for a start. So there was that. I'm like, okay, you can work with stuff like that. Start with a bang, literally. And then basically you work through... the difference with this one is that it's mostly indoors. It feels a little bit Metro-esque. And that's not because I'm also playing Metro at the moment. It's set in a hydroelectric dam. So a lot of it is set inside. I've been caught out a couple of times by not checking round corners and having zombies jump out on me, which is, scary, honestly. It was good. I enjoyed it. Talking about glitches, the absolute worst possible place to get a glitch. Right at the end of the DLC, when the rest of it has been perfectly fine, to lose audio and the subtitles. So when you get to the end of the game, you don't know what's happening. And then the game ends, the DLC finishes, but by this point has glitched that much that it's just completely broken. So then I reload the checkpoint, have to do the end of the game again, which was fine. It was enjoyable. I enjoyed it. Just to get the audio and find out what actually happened at the end. That was fine. A small point. Right at the end of the DLC, you go into a section. Now, obviously, this section is you are going to be fighting for your life whilst trying to escape. So, here's a shit ton of guns to pick from. All the ammo you could ever possibly want. And if you really want to look deep enough, you can find like a secret room with even more impressive guns, ammo, etc. I say, yes, please. But what I also say is, you've really spoilt me with choice here. I'm going to pick the best rifle, in my opinion. I'm going to pick the best handgun setup I possibly can. Pick up all the ammo I can physically carry. And then wonder why this is the point in time to get the option of all of these different guns. Would it not have made sense to pepper them throughout the game? Because by that last level, that last bit of the game, your only option is to take one rifle and two handguns of some description. Whether, even if you take like an Uzi or machine pistol, it still goes in the handgun slot. I kind of felt cheated. There's all this stuff to play with, all these guns, all this ammo. And it was the end of the game. If I'd have known for definite, for 100% that it was the end of the game, there was a gun in the secret storage room that I was like, that gun looks kick-ass, but I can't take it because it's a shotgun and I need an assault rifle. If I could have had that gun earlier in the game, I could have experimented with it, actually used it. I didn't use it once. I was a bit like, you've dropped the ball here. You could have given even half of these guns earlier in the game. I picked up a super cool handgun. But again, it was in the back third of the game. I was like, where was this for the rest of the time? I understand starting with like an average pistol and nothing else and working your way through the game, get some ammo, get another gun, get a rifle, etc. But then, could you not give me access to some of, just a handful of those weapons throughout the rest of it? It just feels like a missed opportunity. But what do I know? I'm just the guy who's playing it. There we go. I've got one more DLC to do, and then Horde mode, which I've played before. It's not massively interesting to me, but whatever. So, at time of recording, we are 12 hours and 2 minutes away from the release of Batman Arkham Shadow. A couple of things. One, at this point in time, no pre-order. And number two, and what could be even more important, is still don't know how much it's going to be when it's released, which is a bad sign. I'm going to say here and now, I'm going to say £55 is my guess. But tune in next week to find out what I think of a very expensive game. Right, that's it. There we go. I'll catch you next time. So there we go. What do you think to that? Hopefully nobody was offended or triggered or any of those sorts of things. Big thank you for watching. Big thank you for listening. Big thank you for being here. Before you go, excuse me, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review, and check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to this episode of CookieCast.